what they can do to advance manufacturing.
The right question is, what is the same? Automation is used for two reasons. In simple terms, we use our own products. The strength of Renishaw is to actually say to any manufacturer, come see, talk about our successes. We can talk about the things that we've tried that have failed.
Renishaw is involved in companies making very small products.
Yep.
To very high value machining. China's growth of manufacturing, Renishaw has been integral part.
I know India is not China, but it's more expensive. So you need to balance the expense with, is it necessary?
That is what the industry needs.
So India is set for dramatic growth. For the next 5 years, we can do the same.
India is growing and manufacturing is growing. That's the fastest growing sector in India. And it's a responsibility of all the industry in India how to advance manufacturing. And Renishaw with its technology, which help industry in terms of automation, quality. And we're going to bring a series of talks to help engineers, shop floor managers, salespeople, company owners, to learn what they can do to advance manufacturing, to learn what they need to improve in terms of their efficiency in the manufacturing, yield in manufacturing, and ultimately make more money, able to supply more parts outside India, improve the export. And I've been fortunate today, we got our president of APAC visiting us, and more than just being president, he has been working for Renishaw for a number of years. And he has worked on the shop floor, he has worked on the road, he has worked with the customers, small to big size to medium size. So I thought I would not have the greatest opportunity than this ever to interview someone and to learn what he has seen in last 30 years, companies making changes, how Renishaw has helped companies with 1 machine to 10 machine to 50 machine to 100 machine to 1,000 machines, to 5,000 machines and more. And that's, I'm really privileged to interview Andy today. Thank you. And I think it's great that Renishaw's brand in engineering, I think it speaks for itself. The type of products they bring to the market, the type of technologies along with how they can be used, I think it's really testament. You have been in the industry for 30 years and you have been to mature markets, modern markets, to the markets those were developing.
Yeah.
When you compare the technologies now and when you look at 2 decades ago, what's the change you have seen?
It's an interesting question because I think I'm going to say that's the wrong question. The right question is, what is the same? And I think what's interesting is that aspects of our technology are almost exactly the same as 30 years ago. The product, the hardware is the same, but the way that they're applied, I think, is really different in this age. It's interesting, we were talking earlier about automation, and one of the key things I think we need to remember is that automation is used for 2 reasons. One is to reduce your skill level and therefore reduce the cost of your labor and the amount of labor that's put into a product. The second kind of less well understood reason is to improve the yield. It's to reduce variation in the production of components. So that's why automation in general terms is applicable in developing nations and also applicable in developed, because one of those 2 reasons is really important, and it doesn't really matter which. So for me, the interesting part is the similarities over these 30 years, where the hardware, the basic principle has stayed the same. But I think the way we apply, the technology we use, the amount of CO2 we produce in producing these components has changed dramatically. But the messaging is still very, very similar than it was 30 years ago.
One of the interesting things that we sell precision technology to make precision parts. But many people tend to forget Renishaw is one of the largest manufacturers in the UK.
Yeah.
And we have been doing in-house machining for years.
Yeah.
And imagine with the rising labor cost or expensive labor cost in the UK, still Renishaw was able to maintain a lot of manufacturing in the UK.
Yep.
So how did they manage to do that?
So in simple terms, we use our own products to make our own products. I always find it funny that the buzzword or the buzz phrase at the moment is Industry 4.0, factory of the future. Renishaw's had a factory of the future for about 20 years. So you can, the concept of a connected machine shop, of feedback within machines, and collection of data is something we've been doing for many years, and we're very open about it. I think it's a real strength of Renishaw is to actually say to any manufacturer, come see. Our manufacturing methodology is quite specific. It's really good for making kind of small size aluminium and steel components. So it's not so applicable to very large components, but we're very open with showing our methodology to anybody that's interested. We have several sites in the UK, and we also have demonstration facilities around the world where you can come see.
And I think, if I'm not wrong, there's lights out machining, or there's one person manning 10 machines. Can you put some?
Yeah. So we've had 20 years to put this together. So I think that's one of the really important messages to pass on to your channel partners and your customers is that automation doesn't have to be lights out manufacturing with everything automated and guided robots going around the factory. It doesn't need to be that way. When you start with automation, it's about automating simple tasks that are done repetitively every day or every shift. So you can embed automation very, very simply. And the reason why Renishaw is approaching, as you say, one person running a number of machines is we've had 20 years to implement. So I think what we can do is talk about our successes. We can talk about the things that we've tried that have failed, and we can speed up the process. So it won't take customers here 20 years to achieve the same thing. But you don't need to jump and go the whole way into lights out manufacturing. It's not necessary. And in fact, it's better to learn along the way to do some simple operations. So setting the corner of workpieces or setting the 0 points on jobs is really simple to do. And it's something that can be applied really straightforwardly on almost any machine.
Wow, that's the music to my ear. That's the music to a lot of manufacturers in India.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm aware, Renishaw is involved in companies making very small products.
Yeah.
To very high value machining, from automotive to aerospace to electronics. What is one thing that in your experience you have seen Renishaw helping these manufacturers? What is the one advantage these manufacturers have got by using Renishaw technology?
I think, as I said, I think it's this, what we allow or what we enable is applying something quite simple and quite straightforward, that we can improve something and make a measurable difference in a short period of time. The other thing that we spend a lot of time doing is explaining to the operators, the programmers, what we are doing and why. Because one of the things we learned the hard way is that if you implement a measurement routine, and then you leave it with the operators to run, if something goes wrong, and always it's at night with the night shift operators, if something goes wrong, then the night shift operator simply comments out the probing lines and makes the machine run. So you have to explain why the probing is being implemented, what it is doing, so that the production team understand exactly how you do that. And the problem with that is it takes time, and it also takes skill and expertise, and it's really helpful if that is transmitted in local language. So I think one of our benefits is that we have knowledgeable people in India that can speak local dialects to local customers and explain the detail of what they're doing so that the night shift team feel confident that they can troubleshoot and work with something that we've implemented. So for me, it's do the basic steps, do them right, explain what you've done, show the customer you can gain benefit, and then expand. And then in 5 years or 10 years, you'll be the same as Renishaw in the UK.
Wow, fantastic. As you have talked about automation a number of times, one of the fear quite a lot of customers in India, they have in their mind, oh, it's expensive. Probe is expensive. What about if my operators do something goes wrong and he does some mistake? So how have you seen the fear of this going away in other countries, and how has Renishaw helped to overcome this fear? Because they may know that this is the technology they need, but they're fearful. Should I use it? Do I have money to, I think, compensate for that?
Yeah. So I think that's a tough question because mistakes happen. It's inevitable. So I think the first thing is that I think we underestimate our service offering to customers because most customers see the typical service that we use, which we call RBE, repair by exchange. So, okay, mistakes happen. It's inevitable. So our policy of being able to take a customer's probe and replace it immediately with a working system gives the company some peace of mind. So if it's within the warranty period, okay, that's a without charge process. If it's outside of the warranty, it's a fixed charge that you can communicate in advance. But the speed of replacement goes some way to calm people's nerves. The other way we talk about this is one of the things we said is that the probe system in some cases will improve the yield of an operation. So we've seen some very extreme cases where the yield has been improved from under 50% up to nearly 99% for a particular operation. So what that does is two things. So straight away, instead of buying two machines, you buy one. So it's a explanation you don't need to give to the operator. You need to give to the owner of the company to say, the probe is expensive, but it's less than 10% of the machine, and I've just saved you one machine. So there are ways that I think you can educate the management team to actually understand the investment they're making is quite significant. The other thing sometimes you can explain is that, okay, it's quite common in a manufacturing process to have 2, 3, 4, 5 CNC operations. So improving the yield on operation 1 is one thing. But if that component where the measured values are wrong goes through an operation 2, 3, 4, 5 to be found at the end to be wrong, you've saved the cycle time from machine 2, 3, 4, and 5 as well as the yield on a single machine. So in some cases you can save multiple machines for the cost of less than 10% of the value of the machine. So it's about the value proposition of the product. So yes, it's expensive, but I think there are ways to explain how actually it's a really good investment.
Wow, I think that's fantastic. So what you're saying is effectively you can get more from your investment. You will be able to reduce the overall capital expenditure as well as your operational expenditure. Means you can be competitive, and at the end of the day, you will spend less money to make one component.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's, I think, in simple terms, when you think about it, most people are very, very familiar with the term of cycle time. Okay, so especially when you go to contract manufacturers or you go to automotive component manufacturers, everything is cycle time, cycle time, cycle time. The bit that you forget is that actually cycle time is not really a good measure, because cycle time is to produce a part. It doesn't tell you if it's good or not. Exactly. So actually, if you can start discussing the cycle time for a good part, then that is where, if I say that my yield improves by 100%, then my cycle time has reduced. So you can see how you can get faster cycle time, but there I'm talking about cycle time for a good part, not for just a part. So some of these lessons, I think, they take years for us to articulate and for us to discuss with customers. But I think there's some really simple messages that we can start getting people to think about.
Yeah. And I think that's the advantage of Renishaw being present here, to help Indian companies to not make the mistakes, let's say, other companies have made, and we can share some of our experiences to help them make their components faster, more quality, and so cheaper as well at the end of the day. Now, you've spent a lot of time in China and Asia Pacific, and I'm sure as you have seen the growth of manufacturing in China. Now the manufacturing GDP is around 47%. And as you know, India right now is starting on the journey of manufacturing growth. Our manufacturing GDP is around 18%. Our objective is to make it to 25% and then 30%. Now, in that journey of China's growth of manufacturing, Renishaw has been integral part to help them to achieve that. What is your plan for India? What are you planning to help the manufacturers here in India to help them to go from 16% to 25% to 30%?
Really good question. So I think I know India is not China. I think what we've learned with our experiences in China is we know the areas to be critical about. We know the areas that are problematic. So I think what we can do is to try to replicate some of the work that we've done in China, but I think it will need to be slightly different in India. So I think what we're trying to do is take our experiences, our learned experiences in China, and apply them in India, but not just try to say, let's do copy paste. We'll do the same as we did in China, because I don't think it'll work. So I'm confident that what we can do is put our engineering teams in touch with each other. I think what we've started to do is joint training programs where we're doing two-way learning, because I think the India team also have a rich history of working with suppliers and constructors in India, and I think it's a two-way conversation. But I think probably what we can do in India is avoid some of the really big pitfalls that we met in China, and just warn our Indian team to say, okay, this is what happened when we did that, so we can probably just make less mistakes. But I think it'll be similar to the work that we did in China with a kind of an Indian flavor to it. But I think mainly it'll just be trying to not make some of the mistakes we made last time.
Yes, and coming back to China and America, where you have worked, it's not the second-hand information, the first-hand information, and we have seen there the growth of automation. One thing when we talk about automation in India, and when customer thinks about, first thing they think about robot. Oh, I need to have robot. But if, as you know, if robots are going to make your process faster, but it could be garbage in, garbage out. It could be making scrap faster, although not utilizing the full potential of robot. So what did you see in these Western countries or in China when they were going for automation, when they were using these material handling devices, robot? What did they do to ensure the process is under control, the process is consistent, and how did Renishaw help in that endeavor?
So I think, it's interesting you should say that. So to me, we see robots at kind of the end of the journey of automation rather than the beginning. I also see quite a lot of kind of quite bad robot integration. They make great videos, but it's not, it's the example I can think of is the one where the robot has a gripper and it's opening the door of the machine and putting components into the machine and closing the door and pushing the start button. It's nice. It's a nice video.
It looks nice.
But it's not practical. It's much slower than a person doing the same job. So I think one of the things that we see is automation in general is replicating a task that a skilled individual does. So it's kind of simple things like if you walk into a factory and you have a line of machines and you have a line manager that is looking after the machines, if you walk up to the guy and say, okay, which is the best machine and which is the worst, he'll say, that's the worst machine, this is the best machine. It's in his head. It's personal understanding, and it takes skill, it takes time, it takes experience to be able to understand that. When you think about the process of managing a group of machines, what the person will be doing is taking a component off a machine, measuring features, certain features, looking at the measured values, comparing it to the drawing and saying, it's a little bit high, so going to the right tool offset and adjusting slightly the tool offset figure, and then running the cycle. So what we find is that the entry to automation is just automating what people do now. So that's the first thing that I think we do, is that if you've got knowledgeable, experienced people on a line, then you look at what they're doing and you automate what they're doing, because that will free them to do something else. So what we can do, and what probing systems especially does, is automate repetitive tasks really easily. What they also do is they allow you to make smaller increments as well, because generally when you have a line manager, the line manager will have a tolerance. So he knows that if he adjusts to the middle and then moves as the tool gets more and more worn to the bottom, it doesn't give him as much time. So generally, if you're a manual operator doing manual adjustments, you adjust to the top of the limit, and that gives you most time before you have to adjust again. So it's right, it's within specification for the drawing, but you get a lot of variation in the parts. So if you use a probe system, you can make smaller adjustments and stay in the center. So it's a better way of doing what the skilled operator is doing now. So that's what I think we do first, is look for some of those critical tasks and automate where they're doing these repetitive tasks, which frees the skilled labor to do something different.
So that moves very nicely to my next question, that is regarding inline gauging or quality control at the point of manufacture. Because as we know, historically, you make parts, you make part in batches, and then you take one of them to the quality control room, come back, update, and then get the next batch making. But as we know, with the high volume machining, that is not working out. I think there's a lot of delay. So this concept of inline gauging, control at the point of manufacture, is quite important. And Renishaw has a unique product which no one has until now, Equator. So what has Renishaw done in this space with Equator to achieve the goal of controlling quality at the point of manufacture, and how do you see going even forward with this?
So I think this all depends on your level of precision. So I think one of the things we are acutely aware of is that there's no point applying high precision, high performance if it's not needed. So our philosophy is to try to advise our customers on almost the minimum required to get the required accuracy. One of the things that you always struggle with is that it's possible to do measurement and control on the machine, but that takes some cycle time where the production manager will argue that the machine should be cutting metal. So taking a component off the machine and measuring it as an inline operation saves cycle time on the machine. But you can do a lot of those jobs either with a probing system or with an Equator offline. Some of the most demanding applications we have actually use a combination of both. So they use the probe system on the machine to control the process, and effectively what they're saying is, at the end of the machining process, the machine is able to answer the question, is this part the same as the part I produced previously. So it doesn't know the size, it doesn't know how accurate it is, it knows if it's the same as the last part. So the probe system is used very simply to just say, I'm going to make the part the same as the one before. And then every 10 parts or 20 parts or 100 parts, a single part is taken off and put onto the equator, and it's measured for absolute accuracy, and that is fed back. So then you have the in-machine measurement to control, saying, is it the same as the last part? And the off-machine measurement to actually give you an absolute, it is 29.375 millimeters in diameter. So that with the combination of those two, you can have a very, very powerful methodology for producing parts on a constant basis, but it's more expensive. So you need to balance the expense with, is it necessary for the amount of precision that you're trying to achieve? But it's a really, really useful component, really easy way to take cycle time away from a machining center for both setup, for inspection, and also in some cases for measurement of fixtures, so that you can find the center of a component sitting on a fixture. It's a really, really good way of taking that measurement routine off and then passing the information directly and automatically to the machine.
Wow. So means what you're saying with the automation and this control at the point of manufacturing, you can make first part right, you can make 100th part right, you can make 1000th part right. That means always making right parts, and with the automation doing it in the time that you need. Wow, that is what the industry needs.
So getting to that level where you want to make number one, actually making number one right is more difficult than you imagine. But making the 10th part and the 100th and the 1000th part the same is very achievable. But you have to start controlling a lot of things. So you probably need to have sister tooling, because if you have tools that wear, you need to be able to replace them without the machine stopping. And again, that's something that the measurement equipment can actually tell the machine itself, okay, it's time to change the tool. So you can also, in some cases, save money on tooling costs, because typically a manufacturer will use tooling for a set number of components. But it doesn't mean that the tool is worn, because there's variation in the tooling. So probing systems and offline measurement can also extend the life of your tooling as well.
Wow, that means even more cost saving, because we know if you have to make more parts, more tools will be needed. That means every penny saved is every penny made.
And we haven't even started talking about thermal compensation, because you imagine a machine shop in India at 40 or 40, and what was it this summer? Maybe 45 degrees, nearly 50 degrees.
50 degrees.
So you imagine a machine shop in machining aluminium components at 50 degrees, and then in the winter machining the same component at maybe 20 degrees. The components are different size. Again, probing systems and offline metrology can help a manufacturer produce the same size components in winter and in summer. It's a really hard subject. Thermal compensation is a science in itself. But again, I think we have expertise within India that can help our customers with that kind of problem as well.
True, and as you know, automotive is central to India's growth, and they cut aluminium. And this is very pivotal and central to them making those millions and millions of parts every year. We all are very excited in India about the growth of India, the growth of manufacturing in India. Our Prime Minister has set a vision of being the powerful and developed economy. I want to know from outside, what is the view about India? What is your personal view, and what is the view about growth of India as a nation, as well as India's manufacturing?
Coming to India since, I think my first trip to India was 1993, or no, probably even earlier than that, maybe 1992. And it's interesting that I think over the years, India has been the country where when you speak to people, it's always been India set for dramatic growth. And every year it's been the same. And then every year we've had growth, but it's not been dramatic. I think starting in visits to India about 2 years ago, that all changed. And you can see that the amount of money, the investment by external companies in India is dramatic. And that in turn is pushing the domestic manufacturers to increase their production and improve the quality and the performance of their products. And it's driving industry in India to amazing levels. The last 2 or 3 years have been amazing in terms of the growth that we have seen. And I fully believe that for the next 5 years, we can do the same every single year. It's amazing, and it will be quite a challenge for you, for Sanjay and his team. It's going to be it'll be tough, but I think the opportunity is really dramatically different. So that what the catalyst for that was, honestly, I think it's the conflict between China and America, meaning that a lot of companies want to have an alternative. They want to have, I think that they've run for many years having a single supply chain. And as most companies know, having a single supply chain is not really a very good idea. It's not very stable. The second thing I think that triggered this development was COVID. Yeah. And people realizing that if COVID-2 happens, when COVID-2 happens, sadly, we know what is going to happen, that countries are going to be protective of their people. They're probably going to shut down borders. They're going to reduce the ability to move around. So if you want to be agile and continue to be able to manufacture, you need a more distributed supply chain. So I think the combination of those two things really was the catalyst for what is happening now in India. But I think it's just a natural progression. So I'm super excited for what we're going to achieve in India. India is already one of our fastest growing regions within the fastest growing region within my area of Asia Pacific, and it's probably one of the fastest growth areas in the world as a whole in Renishaw terms. And I think the opportunity is fantastic going forward from here.
Yeah, I think it's great to see your confidence in us, in Indian manufacturing as a whole. That puts me another question. You yourself have traveled across India. You traveled Mumbai to Pune, to Delhi, to Chennai, to Bangalore, to Kolkata. Is a very diverse country, large country, lots of kilometers one has to travel.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to be present everywhere. The making reach is very important. And also for the customer, so that they can get support at wherever they are. So channel partners, they're very critical to our success.
Yeah.
What is your message to them, and what they can expect from Renishaw, not only today, not only next year, going forward? How critical are they to success of Renishaw?
So I think really, really good point. I think channel partners are absolutely critical to Renishaw going forwards from now. They've been an integral part of our business in Asia Pacific for many, many years. We still have channel partners in Taiwan and Korea that have been in place since before I moved to Asia. So they're a critical part of our operation because what they enable us to do is have more representation. The channel partner is a representative of Renishaw that gets to speak to more customers. So it's almost like having an external sales force. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity for us having more sales team that can go out and speak knowledgeably to customers. It's a big responsibility for our channel partners, whereby going through the process for selecting channel partners is a really important step, because they are representing a public limited company from the UK. There's a burden to representing a public company. We have burdens of transparency in the way that we do business. So being a channel partner for a PLC is a opportunity, but it's also it's a burden for them because of the expectations we have. I'm firmly committed to working with channel partners, and I think what we have to do is provide the backup and support for those channel partners. We need to provide training and support. We need to provide service. We need to provide technical training, applications training, sales training, where our sales team know the kind of customers that you can go to in India, and you know the ones that are not receptive. So talking and helping our channel partners to do that. And I also think that we need to try to find ways to get our channel partners to work together with each other. That's normally pretty difficult, right? Yeah. It's not easy, but we've had some success with that in the past. In some countries where we've done joint exhibitions with channel partners and Renishaw, doing a single exhibition booth. So it can be done. And I think that's what we can bring to channel partners, is we can bring the backup and the support to say, we're committed to using channel partners in India. We know India is a big country. I think Renishaw will start increasing its representation across the country directly with more offices and people. But I still believe that we need a channel partner network to distribute product into India, because I think one of the things that you notice when you travel around India and you travel around China is that the logistics in India has still got a way to go to compete with the south of China, for example. It's not surprising. It's the development it takes many years. But I think when you say about traveling 100 kilometers in India and 100 kilometers in China, it's a different number of hours for doing that trip. So probably when you think about it, in China, we have 14 separate offices in China. We probably need more than that in India. So that comes at a cost. And I think that's where the channel partners can help us. They can spread our reach. And we need to do that combination of making sure that we have local representation for Renishaw, and the channel partners will play a really valuable role in growing our business across the country as a whole.
I think there's a very important message that it's an exciting time for channel partners.
Yep.
There's an opportunity for them, and there's a responsibility on them, but Renishaw is investing in them.
Exactly.
And Renishaw is investing in helping them learn the technology, have support in terms of when they sell a product, when they're educating a customer. So it's not just you go out and sell.
Yeah.
We will provide the backbone, the framework for you to be successful.